Whenever we talk about the Canadian dream, we almost always end up talking about, well, stuff.
The tangible things, yeah.
Exactly. We obsess over the housing market or landing that great job. It's all very material.
It's the brochure version of the dream.
It is. But if you actually talk to people who've moved their entire lives here, the dream isn't really about the house. It's about who's sitting at the dinner table with you.
That's the absolute core of it. The Canadian dream can be pretty lonely if you can't share it.
Right. It's about family. But, and this is a big but, we're looking at a stack of documents today from Dara Immigration Services, DIS, that paints a picture that is, let's just say it's a less feel-good movie and a lot more legal thriller.
That is a very, very good way to put it. We're doing a deep dive into family sponsorship in Canada for 2026. And honestly, it is probably the single most emotional, high-stakes part of the entire immigration system.
High stakes is right. Reading these notes, I was struck by how high. We're not just talking about a rejected form where you lose a fee.
Yeah.
We're talking about years of forced separation. We're talking about, couples living on video calls for half a decade.
Yeah.
Or worse, permanent bans.
Exactly. The term marriage fraud shows up a lot. And that's really the tension here, isn't it? You have this deeply personal love, family, and you have a government whose job is basically to be a professional skeptic.
A professional skeptic. I like that.
That's what they do. They're trained to look at your wedding photos, your private messages, your bank accounts, and then decide if your love is real or if it's just a transaction.
So that's our mission today. To decode that skepticism, we need to figure out who actually qualifies in 2026. We need to look at these scary legal contracts you have to sign, and we need to talk about the red flags that immigration officers are literally trained to hunt for.
Right. And to do that, we have to start with the basic framework. I think a lot of people just assume, okay, I'm a citizen now. I have a right to bring my family over. But the Canadian system is very, very rigid. It puts everyone into 3 distinct buckets.
Okay, so lay them out for us. If you don't fit in one of these buckets, you're out.
You're out. Precisely. So bucket number 1 is spousal and common law sponsorship. That's your husband, wife, or partner. Bucket 2 is dependent children. And bucket 3 is the parents and grandparents program, or the PGP.
I want to jump straight to that third bucket, the PGP, because I feel like that's the one everyone asks about. You get here, you get settled, you have kids, and you want mom and dad to come over and help. What's the story there for 2026?
Well, this is where I have to deliver the bad news first. The reality check from DIS is pretty harsh. As of 2026, the PGP is, well, it's effectively closed to new applicants.
Closed. So you just can't apply at all.
Essentially, yes. It runs on a lottery system, but they're so backed up they aren't even taking new names for the lottery. They're still processing applications from the pool of people who applied back in 2020.
So if you didn't get your name in 6 years ago, you're just out of luck.
For now, yes. That door for permanent residence is pretty much shut.
Wow. Why is it so restrictive?
At the end of the day, it's a numbers game. The government is concerned about the long-term healthcare costs, so they cap it very, very tightly.
That is a tough pill to swallow for a lot of families.
Right.
But the notes mention an alternative, right? The super visa.
Yes, and this is the critical plan B. The super visa is the necessary alternative. It's a temporary visa, but it's a really good one. It lets parents and grandparents visit for up to 5 years at a time.
5 years is a long time. That's not just a visit. That's part of your life.
It is. It's seeing a grandchild go from a baby to starting school. But, and this is the key difference, it is not permanent residence. They don't get public health care. You, the child, have to prove you've bought private medical insurance for them.
Which for elderly parents can't be cheap.
It can be incredibly expensive. The government is basically saying they can stay for a long time, but you, the family, have to cover 100% of the financial risk.
Okay, so that's parents. Let's go to bucket 1.
Oh.
Spouses. What if I have a girlfriend back home? We've been dating for years. We're totally committed. Can I sponsor her?
No.
Just a flat no.
A hard no. Canada does not have a fiancé visa. This is a huge misconception. People think being engaged is enough. It's not. The source material is crystal clear. Dating does not count. You must be legally married or you have to be common law.
And common law isn't just, we're serious. It has a legal definition.
A very strict one. For immigration, it means you have lived together continuously for at least 12 months.
That word continuously feels important.
It's the most important word. Let's say you live together for 8 months, then your partner has to go home for 3 months to finish a degree or something.
You just pause the clock, right?
Worse, you
Yeah.
reset the clock. In the eyes of an officer, you broke the cohabitation. You're back to zero. You're just a boyfriend-girlfriend again, which means nothing for sponsorship.
That is incredibly strict. So you have to either put a ring on it or a lease on it.
And if you want to make it easy on yourself, you do both.
All right, so let's say we're married. Now for the part that scares everyone, the money. I'm assuming I need to be making a lot of money to sponsor my spouse.
And here is where we get the biggest surprise. This is the good news.
Okay.
Generally speaking, there is no minimum income requirement to sponsor a spouse or a child.
Wait, say that again? I could be working a minimum wage job and sponsor my wife.
You could. Unlike almost every other immigration stream, there is no low-income cutoff or LEO. The only tiny exception is if your spouse also has a dependent child who also has their own child.
So a grandchild is involved. That's a pretty rare situation.
Oh, very rare. For 99% of couples, there is no income test.
That's surprisingly generous. Why?
The thinking is that family reunification for a spouse is a fundamental right of a Canadian, not a privilege you have to buy. But
There's always a but.
there is always a catch. It's called financial inadmissibility.
Okay.
So while you don't need to be rich, you absolutely cannot be on social assistance welfare for any reason other than a disability. And you
Wow.
can't be in undischarged bankruptcy.
So if I'm unemployed and getting government support, I can't sponsor.
Correct. The government's logic is, if you can't support yourself right now, how can you promise to support someone else?
That makes sense. But this brings us to what you called the scary legal contract. The undertaking. What is that?
This is the absolute core of the deal. It is a binding legal contract between you and the government of Canada. When you sign it, you are promising to provide for the basic needs of your relative. Food, shelter, that sort of thing.
Okay, that sounds normal. That's what a spouse does.
But here's the kicker. You are also legally promising that if your sponsored relative claims social assistance at any point during the undertaking period, you will pay that money back to the government. Every single dollar.
So you're the co-signer on their life in Canada.
You are 100% the guarantor.
Hmm.
And they will collect that debt. They can garnish your wages, take your tax refunds. It's a debt to the crown.
And how long does this promise last?
For a spouse, it's 3 years. For a dependent child, it's 10 years or until they turn 25. And for parents, if you ever got them in, it's 20 years.
20 years. That's
Yeah.
a massive financial liability to take on.
It's huge. Now let's go back to the spousal one. 3 years. People get divorced. What happens if I sponsor my husband and 6 months later we split up? Does that void the contract?
I assume it would have to.
It doesn't. This is the divorce proof clause. Divorce does not break the undertaking.
Are you serious? So I could be divorced, my ex could be living with someone else across the country, and if he goes on welfare.
You get the bill. The government does not care about your relationship status. They care about the contract you signed. You are on the hook for those 3 years no matter what happens between you two.
That is heavy. You're literally betting on your marriage with your wallet.
You absolutely are. It's not just helping someone get a visa.
Okay, so we've covered who can apply and the financial risks. Now, the investigation. How does the government actually decide if a marriage is real? The genuineness test.
Right. And according to the source material, failing this test is the #1 reason applications get refused.
So how do they test you?
It's all about the paper trail. And it is very invasive. The DIS documents list the kind of evidence you need. They want a minimum of 20 photos. And not just wedding pictures. They want life pictures.
You mean like just hanging out on the couch?
Exactly. Trips, holidays, different seasons. They are trained to spot staged photos. If all your pictures look like they were taken on the same afternoon, they will get suspicious.
So you basically have to hire a continuity director for your relationship.
You're not far off, but it gets deeper. They want chat logs.
My WhatsApp messages.
Your WhatsApp, your Facebook Messenger, whatever you use. They want to see the relationship developing over time. And not just the I love you texts. They want to see the boring, everyday stuff.
That feels incredibly voyeuristic.
It is. But they are trying to filter out scams. They also want to see joint bank accounts, joint leases, utility bills with both names, even letters from friends and family saying, yes, I know them, they are a real couple.
It's like you have to document your love life like it's a science project.
You really do. Because if you have any red flags, they'll scrutinize you even more.
What's on that list? What makes an officer suspicious?
A large age gap is a big one, 20 plus years. An officer will ask, what's the common ground here besides the visa?
Which feels a bit unfair, but I can see the logic.
Right. Another one is incompatibility. If you don't share a common language, If you need a translation app to talk to your spouse, how deep is that bond, really?
And I saw quick marriages in the notes.
The classic. You meet online, you meet in person for 1 week, and you're married on day 5. To an officer, that screams marriage of convenience.
So if you genuinely fell in love at first sight, you're actually in a tougher spot.
You have a steeper hill to climb, for sure. The solution isn't to hide it. The solution is to provide extra evidence. You have to explain it. Maybe it's cultural. You provide more chat logs, more letters of support. You have to prove that even though it looks like a red flag, it's genuine.
So the marriage certificate is just the entry ticket. The evidence is the real application.
Exactly. Address the red flags head on.
Okay, I want to switch to something in the notes that sounded like a total nightmare.
Yeah.
The hidden trap. A specific rule. Regulation 117(9)D.
This is, without a doubt, the single most dangerous trap in the whole system, the undeclared family rule. And it's so tragic because it usually catches people who are just uninformed, not malicious.
Okay, so walk us through the scenario.
Imagine you're applying for your own PR. You have a child from a previous relationship, but for whatever reason, maybe you think, oh, they aren't coming now, I won't complicate the paperwork. You don't list that child on your application.
Okay, so I leave them off the form. I figure I'll deal with sponsoring them later.
You get your PR. A few years go by, you're settled, and you decide to sponsor your child. The government will reject that application. And Regulation 117 says that because you failed to declare them on your own application, they are permanently excluded from the family class.
So,
Wait.
you are banned from ever sponsoring them for life. By not declaring them, you legally severed the relationship for immigration purposes.
That is unbelievably harsh, even if it was just an honest mistake. The law is incredibly rigid on this. It's a permanent ban. It's heartbreaking.
So if there's one thing you take away from this deep dive, it's declare every single child you have.
Please, whether they are coming with you or not, it's not worth the risk.
Okay, let's talk logistics, timelines. In 2026, how long is the wait?
It's not terrible, actually. For a spousal sponsorship, the estimate is around 10 to 14 months. For children, it's a bit quicker, maybe 8 to 12 months.
And the cost?
You're looking at about 1,205 Canadian dollars in government fees for a spouse.
Okay, so about a year of waiting. If my spouse is already in Canada with me, say on a visitor visa, can they work while we wait?
This is a great question, and it brings up a huge strategic decision, what the source calls the inland advantage.
Sounds intriguing.
It's very practical. You can apply either outland from outside Canada or inland from inside Canada. If you apply inland, there's a massive perk. As soon as you get the first email back, the acknowledgement of receipt, your spouse can apply for an open work permit.
Oh, that's a game changer.
It is. It means they can work for any employer in Canada while the main application is processing. They can start earning money, building Canadian experience. It makes the wait so much easier.
But you only get that if you're already physically in Canada when you apply.
Correct. If you apply outland, you just have to wait it out until you get the final approval.
So getting them here on a visitor visa first seems like the smart play.
It often is, but that visitor visa can be its own challenge.
A catch-22.
Welcome to the world of immigration.
Right. And the whole thing is digital now.
Yep. It's all done through the permanent residence portal online. You upload PDFs of everything. Your photos, your chat logs, your life.
Scanning old love letters. Sounds romantic.
It's tedious, but it's better than your package getting lost in the mail.
So we've covered the buckets, the financial handcuffs, the proof of love, the permanent bans. When you step back from all this, what's the big picture?
It's that family sponsorship is this really strange mix of intense human emotion and cold, hard contract law. You're trying to prove your love with receipts and documents to a system that is designed, by default, to be suspicious of you.
It forces you to mix romance with bureaucracy. You literally have to save the receipts from your dates.
And that's the big takeaway. Preparation is everything. This isn't something you can just wing. One missed date on a form, one misunderstood question, and the whole thing can be derailed for years. It's not just filling out forms, it's telling the story of your life in a way a government officer will believe.
Well, this has been an eye-opener. I think we assume being a Canadian gives you a right to bring your family here, but it's really a privilege you have to qualify for, sign a contract for, and prove you deserve.
That's the reality. And I want to leave you with one final thought on that. We talked about the undertaking, right? That financial contract.
Yeah, the 3-year promise.
Think about this. In a world where relationships change constantly, the Canadian government demands a financial guarantee that is more rigid than most marriage vows.
Until death do us part has an escape clause called divorce. The undertaking doesn't.
Exactly. You can divorce your spouse, but you cannot divorce the potential debt you owe to the government on their behalf. It forces you to ask a really tough question. How much do I trust the future of this relationship? Because the government is making you bet your wallet on it.
A very sobering thought. You're not just betting your heart, you're betting your future bank account.
You really are.
On that note, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Check your red flags, declare your kids, and maybe start saving those chat logs. We'll see you next time.